The House will come to order. The Pledge of Allegiance this morning will be led by Ronald Hurtado, Pablo Perez, Alexander Leon, and Stephanie Salas from Our Lady Catholic Church in Denver.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Cole, please take the roll. The House will stand in a brief recess while we fix the machines. House will come back to order. Mr. Kohler, please take the roll. Stephanie?
Representative Becker.
Alexandra?
I got it, thanks. Buck.
And Pablo.
Buckner. Conti. Corum. Court. Representative Court. Del Grosso. Dorr. Duran. Everett. Exum. Fields. Fisher. Foote. Garcia. Gardner. Giroux. Janal. Hamner. Representative Hamner. Absent. President Holbert. Hollinghorst. Madam Majority Leader. All right. Humphrey. Joshi. Kagan. Kraftarp. Labuda. Landgraf. Lawrence. Representative Lawrence. Oh. Lebsock. Lee. May. McCann. McLaughlin. McNulty. Melton. Mitch Bush. Moreno. Murray. Navarro. Nordberg. Pabon. Peniston. Pedersen. Primavera. Priola. Rankin. Rosenthal. Ryden. Sane. Salazar. Schaefer. Scott. Singer. Sonnenberg. Stevens. Swam. Oh, Swam called he was running late. Swam excused. Zabo. Yep. Tyler. Vigil. Waller. Williams. Wilson. Wright. Representative Wright. Where? Oh, got him. Young. Speaker Ferrandino.
64 members present, one excused. A quorum is present. Representative Salazar.
Buenos días. Señor vocero, yo propongo que la lectura del diario de la fecha de 19 de marzo del 2014 puede prescindir y que las correcciones del oficial mayor sean aprobadas.
You've heard the motion. If you speak Spanish, you understand the motion. Representative Melton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I offer Speaker, excuse me. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I offer a substitute motion that Representative Salazar read the entire journal in Spanish. At length.
It's actually not a long journal from yesterday. You've heard the motion. Any other comment on the motion? No? All those in favor of Representative Salazar reading the journal in Spanish, say aye.
Aye, sí.
Sí, yeah. All those opposed, no. I'm really debating this one. It's already too late. We voted. It's up to me. The motion fails. We're back to the vote, the underlying motion to approve the journal as corrected by the chief clerk. All those in favor say C. C. All those opposed, no. The C's have it. The motion is passed. Announcements and introductions. Representative Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I've spoken with the majority leader and the minority leader.
Hold on one sec, Representative Gardner. Members, can you take your side conversations off the floor? Thank you. Representative Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'll say that again. I've spoken with the majority leader and the minority leader.
It's very good that you talked to them. What did you talk to them about, Representative Gardner?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I have some business from about 10:15 till about 11 on a teleconference that may require me to be absent from the floor, so I would ask to be excused as necessary during that time period, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Will Representative Gardner be excused as requested? Representative Quorum.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and if I could get Representative McLaughlin to join me at the well. Apparently, Representative McLaughlin is not listening. I thought that might happen, that we don't always listen, but I think he is on the way now. But it is my honor to acknowledge a historic event in this House today. For the first time ever, we have representatives from the Southern Ute Indian Tribal Council, the Ute Mountain Tribal Council, and the Northern Ute Tribal Council. And I would like to welcome them. I will take the risk of introducing them after Representative McLaughlin speaks.
Representative McLaughlin.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yes, we have this historic event. We also have members of the Southern Ute Tribe from my district are in the Senate. However, we have the individual members from the Northern Ute and the Ute Mountain Ute who gave us our prayer today. And also we are here with Ernest House and Lieutenant Joe Garcia.
Representative Quorum, you're allowed to make introductions. I think this one fits under the rules.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I would like to acknowledge from the Ute Mountain Ute Tribe, Chairman Manuel Hart, Vice Chairman Juanita Plentyholes, Councilwoman Regina Lopez Whiteskunk, Councilwoman Priscilla Blackhawk Rentz, and Malcolm Lehigh, Councilman. From the Northern Ute Tribal Council, we have Chairman Gordon Howell, Representative Tony Small, and Philip Chimburas.
You read the whole list.
No, I didn't do this other.
No, they're not here. They're not here. Okay.
Any further? Okay. Thank you, members.
Thank you.
Representative Joshi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And members, I would like to welcome some future legislators who are sitting over there. They are the second and third graders visiting us today from present station of Our Lady School. So please welcome them.
Representative Pedersen and Everett.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, if I could get your attention for one moment. We unfortunately had a firefighter who passed away on February 16th recently who was part of West Metro and served in our community. And we have some special guests here to honor him. We have Pam Feely from the West Metro Fire Rescue, who is the president of the board. We also have Chief Don Lombardi, who is here, and thank you for your service. We also have his two lifelong friends, Chad Bond, Ian Culverhouse, and then his wife, Rachel Lysico. Thank you so much for being here today.
Okay. Representative Everett.
You know, this is a huge tragedy and a huge loss to our community. Mike Miller actually lived in my district, so I want to offer my condolences to his family, friends, and colleagues, and say that you're in my thoughts and prayers, and thank you for coming down today.
Representative Tyler. No. Representative Foote.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just wanted to take a moment to let you all know that Representative Singer and I are having a Boulder County Day at the Capitol here, and there's standing on both sides. If you all could please stand up, Boulder County Day at the Capitol, and if we could give them a round of applause for coming down and taking their time for their day with us.
Representative Salazar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This will be done in English. Just a matter of personal privilege, Mr. Speaker. I request a moment of personal privilege.
Representative Salazar be granted a moment of personal privilege.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Speaker, oftentimes we as House members ask the chamber to welcome visitors who are physically present in the chamber. This morning, we have an Adams County friend who cannot be here physically, but who is watching us online. And the reason why she cannot be here physically, Mr. Speaker, is because she has cancer. She was advised that there are no other treatments for her, but that doesn't stop our friend. Her name is Jen Owens. She's a board member of an organization called Harmony, a Colorado chorale, which embraces gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgendered, and straight voices through song. She was afraid, Mr. Speaker, about us giving her a shout out because, as she put it to me yesterday, no one knows me. But we must assure her, Mr. Speaker, that we know her because we pay homage and recognize so many people in the well who inspire us and serve as the greatest example of the ever-enduring, indomitable human spirit. That human spirit of overcoming the impossible, the human spirit that declares victory despite the odds, the human spirit we see in other cancer survivors like our own Representative Primavera. Jen Owens, we say good morning to you today from this chamber, and we ask that you continue to inspire us. And here in her place today, Mr. Speaker, is Courtney Davidson. Please, let's give them a round of applause. Let's look at the camera. Good morning, Jen.
Representative Schaefer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, you may have noticed on your desk you have a beautiful orange tumbler. This is a gift from the ARC of Colorado. We have 11 ARC chapters in our state. Many of them are in your districts. And you know that ARC has provided services for the people with intellectual and developmental disabilities for over 60 years. We will be hosting a lunch at the First Baptist Church across the street from 12 to 1. This is a complimentary lunch, and I invite you to attend, and I'll look forward to seeing you there. Thank you.
Representative Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just a reminder to all of my colleagues that today is the Sportsman's Caucus lunch in room 111 at high noon. The famous hot dogs are back. And we do have a presentation on the future of the National Fish Hatcheries in Colorado. So high noon, room 111 downstairs, free hot dogs. Thank you.
Representative McCann.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We also have the Claw Caucus lunch today at noon, which will be down in room 112 in the basement. We would love to see you. There will be lunch provided for legislators, so please try to attend at noon in 112. Thanks.
Representative Becker.
We don't have to sing, do we? Several of us CU fans want to give a shout out to the CU basketball team and Coach Tad Boyle, who tip off today at 11:40 against Pittsburgh in the start of March Madness. So go CU.
Representative Labuda.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members who are on the Legislative Oversight Committee for the continuing examination of the treatment of persons with mental illness who are involved in the criminal and juvenile justice systems, this is a reminder that we meet tomorrow at 1:30 p.m. in room 112 downstairs. So I look forward to seeing you there, plus anybody else who is interested in the subject is invited to attend. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Any further? Representative Patterson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to acknowledge some other special guests here from House District 28. It's our day at the Capitol. If you could wave up there and help me in welcoming some of my constituents. Thank you for being here.
Representative Court.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Okay, if you want to get your minimum wage, here it is, all of you. You need these done today. You need these done today. Please put them on your black file cabinet, and your assignable will pick it up and turn it in for you. But get them done before you leave the chamber this morning. Thank you.
First, or do you want to do?
Well, why don't we do that, and then we can gauge the time we have.
I'd like to go a little while on the floor. Because I don't
Little
want
what? Yeah.
A little while.
Okay, so let's do that.
Either one, I'm here reading. Okay, members, well, let's have a little bit of a rules lesson because I'm going to start increasing fines significantly because all of you keep introducing people you're not supposed to introduce. Days at the Capitol should not be introduced. Boulder or any other House district should not be introduced. Introduction of visitors or guests to the House gallery should be limited to school classes and school groups only. Introduction of guests on the floor of the House should be limited to immediate families of members, former members of the House, president or former elected state officials, city or county officials, members of Congress, elected officials of other states of the United States, and foreign dignitaries. You may also introduce individuals who are serving or who have served previously in the military, family members of individuals who have died in combat while serving in the military or have died serving in law enforcement or while serving in law enforcement or firefighter capacity and who are subject to the House Tribute or House Senate Joint Memorial, any individual who has been recognized statewide for significant accomplishment or achievement, and members of academic or athletic groups or organizations who have achieved significant goals in winning a league, state, or national title, championship, or competition. Okay? That's the rule. If you have questions, your fines will be almost $10 now for every introduction that does not fall under the rules. So please stop. Okay. We're going to move into Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that the House proceed out of order for consideration of Senate amendments to House bills.
Seeing no objection, the House will move out of order for consideration of Senate amendments to House bills. Mr. Kohler, please read the title to House Bill 1108.
House Bill 1108, Representative Primavera, Senator Tostrop, concerning limits on co-payments made by a covered person for physical rehabilitation services.
Representative Primavera.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I know you don't want me to do this, but I move that the House concur with Senate amendments to the House bill.
Please tell us what they did.
What the Senate did, they made some changes regarding the medical necessity of the services that would be provided by a physical rehab person, and they clarified the co-payment level. So I ask for an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the question for the House is to concur in Senate amendments to House Bill 1108. Mr. Kohler, please open the machine, and members proceed to vote. Corey? Oh no, computer is completely frozen. Well, it's frozen.
Nothing. All right, I'm going to go force close it in there.
Okay. Representatives McLaughlin, McNulty, Priola, Wilson. My computer's not working. I vote aye. I vote aye, I said. Close the machine. With 55 aye votes, 10 no votes, 0 excused, and 0 absent, the House concurs in Senate amendments to House Bill 1108. Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move for the repassage of House Bill 1108 as amended.
Seeing no discussion, the question for the House is the repassage of House Bill 1108 as amended. Mr. Kohler, please open the machine, and members proceed to vote. Representative Jewell, and I vote aye. Close the machine. With 38 aye votes, 27 no votes, 0 excused, and 0 absent, House Bill 1108 is repassed. Co-sponsors. Close the machine. Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move to lay over House Bill 1142 to the end of the calendar.
Seeing no objection, House Bill 1142 will be laid over to the end of the calendar. Mr. Kohler, please read the title to House Bill 1182.
House Bill 1182, Representative Hamner, Senator Kirk, concerning changes for the 2015-16 school year to certain public education accountability measures specified in the Education Accountability Act 2009 to accommodate the transition to administering new statewide assessments.
Representative Hamner.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And colleagues, it's with great sorrow that I recommend that the House concur in Senate amendments to House Bill 1182.
Please proceed, Representative Hamner.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Senate added 2 words. Instead of the word submits, they said may submit. So it was very helpful and really clarifies that participation in this program is optional to school districts and institutes. So I ask for a yes vote.
Seeing no further discussion, the question before the House is to concur in silly Senate amendments to House Bill 1182. Mr. Kohler, please open the machine, and members proceed to vote. And I vote yes. Close the machine. With 64 aye votes, 1 no vote, 0 excused, and 0 absent, the House concurs in Senate amendments to House Bill 1182. Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move for the repassage of House Bill 1182 as amended.
Seeing no discussion, the question for the House is the repassage of House Bill 1182 as amended. Mr. Kohler, please open the machine, and members proceed to vote. Worked for a second. Representative McNulty, Priola, and Sonnenberg. Close the machine. With 61 aye votes, 4 no votes, 0 excused, and 0 absent, House Bill 1182 is repassed. Co-sponsors. Close the machine. Mr. Kohler, please read the title of House Bill 1265.
House Bill 1265, Representative Moreno, Senator Roberts, concerning the regulation of games of chance.
Representative Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move the House concur with Senate amendments. House
You
Bill
got me really excited, Representative Moreno, and then you were let down like usual. Representative Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. People often tell me I'm a letdown. That's okay. Mr. Speaker, the Senate made clarifying amendment to repeal certain sections of the statute as a result of the passage of this bill. I ask for an aye vote.
Seeing no further discussion, the question for the House is to concur in Senate amendments to House Bill 1265. Mr. Kohler, please open the machine, and members proceed to vote. And I vote aye. Close the machine. With 65 aye votes, 0 no votes, 0 excused, and 0 absent, the House concurs in Senate amendments to House Bill 1265. Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move for the repassage of House Bill 1265 as amended.
Seeing no discussion, the question for the House is the repassage of House Bill 1265 is amended. Mr. Kohler, please open the machine, and members proceed to vote. That works. There we go. Close the machine with 62 aye votes, 3 no votes, 0 excused, and 0 absent. House Bill 1265 is repassed as amended. Co-sponsors. Close the machine. Madam Majority Leader. Are we moving to, okay, sorry. We will proceed to our next order of business. General order, second reading of bills. Representative Garcia. You've heard the motion. Seeing no objection, the House will resolve itself in the Committee of the Whole for consideration of general orders. Representative Garcia will take the chair.
The committee will come to order. With your unanimous consent, the bills will be read by title unless there is a request for reading a bill at length. Committee amendments will not be read unless requested, as they are printed and in your bill folder. Floor amendments will be shown on the screen or on your iPads unless they are requested to be read at length. Bills will be laid over upon motion of the Majority Leader. The Coat rule is relaxed. Mr. Kohler, please read the title to House Bill 1282.
House Bill 1282, Representative Pabon, Senator Talk Drop, concerning specification what materials may be provided in language other than English by an insurer to a customer.
Representative Pabon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, I move House Bill 1282. There is no committee report.
To the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. This is a very exciting bill. It's a great way to start a Thursday. This bill clarifies a piece of legislation that we all passed last year that had unanimous support, as did this bill in committee. And it basically just says that if you have a insurance policy, rider, or endorsement, that in another language, which as insurance folks and consumer-friendly practices might dictate that you might provide these materials in another language, Spanish, Chinese, Russian, Italian, that they would be required to place those materials in English as well, and that would be the controlling document. But in the bill last year, we went one step a little too far and required advertising materials also be contained in English as well, which just doesn't make a lot of practical sense, and really we're focused on the insurance policies, riders, and endorsements. So It's a good bill, had unanimous support in the first round last year and committee this year. Ask for an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion? Representative Hussain.
Thank you, members. Good bill. Vote yes.
Is there any further discussion on House Bill 1282? Seeing none, the question before us is adoption of House Bill 1282. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed, no. 1282 passes. Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move to lay over House Bill 1057 to the end of the second reading calendar.
Seeing no objection, House Bill 1057 will be laid over as requested by the Majority Leader. Mr. Kohler, please read the title of House Bill 1286.
House Bill 1286, Representative Milton on third amendment concerning authorization of the State Treasurer to loan to the State Historical Society for public display items presented to the Governor as gifts to the State.
Representative Melton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move House Bill 1286. There's no committee report, and I ask for an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion on House Bill 1286? Representative Pabon. Seeing none. Representative Wright. Seeing none. Seeing no further discussion on House Bill 1286, the question before us is the adoption of House Bill 1286. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed, no. House Bill 1286 is adopted.
37.
37. Oh.
Mr. Kohler, please read the title to House Bill 1291.
House Bill 1291, Representatives McLaughlin and Humphrey, also... just McLaughlin and Humphrey, concerning authorizing a charter school to employ a school security officer by contract to carry concealed handgun if the person has a valid concealed carry permit.
Representative Humphrey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Is Representative McLaughlin here also? I move House Bill 1291. There was no committee report.
To the bill.
Members, House Bill 1291 is an equity bill. It adds 3 words to statute, which is or charter schools. Currently, a school district may employ a school security officer or may carry a concealed handgun in the school on its grounds if the person has a valid concealed carry permit. This bill would grant the authority to a charter school as well. And I urge an aye vote.
Representative McLaughlin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, I also move House Bill 1291. As a result of the being pointed out in the Judiciary Committee that the statute which gives the authority to schools may have been vague as to the capacity of charter schools to follow this statute. So Representative Humphrey and I are joined together, and we would move this bill.
Is there any further discussion on House Bill 1291? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of House Bill 1291. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. House Bill 1291 is adopted. Mr. Kohler, please read the title of Senate Bill 58.
Senate Bill 58 by Senator Todd, also Representative Murray, concerning high school equivalency examinations in Colorado.
Representative Murray.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move Senate Bill 58. There is no committee report.
To the bill.
Senate Bill 58 changes the word GED to high school equivalency examination because the term GED has been purchased by a private firm. I urge an aye vote.
Representative Hamner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Colleagues, I also ask for a yes vote and thank Representative Murray for carrying this bill. Thanks.
Is there any further discussion on is there any further discussion on Senate Bill 58? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of Senate Bill 58. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Senate Bill 58 is adopted. Mr. Kohler, please read the title to Senate Bill 17.
Senate Bill 17 by Senator Roberts, also Representatives Vigil and Quorum, concerning limitation on the approval of real estate developments that use water rights decreed for agricultural purposes to irrigate lawn grass.
Representative Quorum.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move Senate Bill 17. There is no committee report.
To the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If you look at the re-engrossed versions, it's a strike below sending the study of use of water for grass, new developments coming from agricultural land to interim water committee for a summertime conversation.
Representative Vigil.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And this is a good conversation to have, and I think it's appropriate that we follow through. So I would ask for an aye vote.
Representative Fisher.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members, we did hear this bill in the House Ag Committee this week, and I recommend that you vote yes on it. I think it's a good bill, and we look forward to continuing the conversation on reducing the water footprint of residential municipal development in Colorado. It's one of the ways we're going to meet the water needs of the 21st century. So thank you.
Is there any further discussion on Senate Bill 17? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 17. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed, no. Senate Bill 17 is adopted. Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move to lay over House Bill 1295 and House Bill 1312 until tomorrow.
Is there any objection? Seeing none, House Bill 1295 and House Bill 1312 will be laid over as requested by the Majority Leader. Mr. Kohler, please read the title to Senate Bill 98.
Senate Bill 98 by Senator Zenzinger, also Representatives Foote and Schaefer, concerning clarification of statutory language on crimes against at-risk elders.
Representative Foote.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move Senate Bill 98. I don't believe there's a committee report.
To the bill. Representative Foote.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Representative Schaefer and I are running this bill. This is it's kind of an extension of what happened last year with the elder abuse bill, Senate Bill 111. And what it does mainly is it cleans up a gap that we have currently in the prosecution of elder abuse cases, particularly in financial cases with elder exploitation. So this is a good bill, members. It passed the Senate unanimously. It passed committee unanimously. And we ask for an aye vote on this bill.
Representative Schaefer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, this bill does continue the state of Colorado's progress toward protecting at-risk elders. As I look around the room here, it may include a few of us. These at-risk elders are persons over the age of 90 or 70. And last year's bill, you'll probably remember, Senate Bill 111, was the result of many months of collaboration between 30 senior groups and long-term care facilities and medical providers, and we've had tremendous progress. Colorado was one of 3 states that did not have protection of at-risk elders. So with that, I do move for the passage of Senate Bill 98.
Is there any further discussion on Senate Bill 98? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 98. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Senate Bill 98 is adopted. Mr. Kohler, please read the title of Senate Bill 18.
Senate Bill 18 by Senator Nicholson, also Representatives Hamner and Young, concerning the prohibition against furnishing nicotine products to persons under 18 years of age.
Representative Hamner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move Senate Bill 18 and the report from the Committee on Education.
To the Committee Report on Education.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move L006 and ask that it be displayed.
It was the Public Health Care.
I'm sorry, it's Public Health Care Committee. I was thinking Education.
To the Public Health Committee report.
I don't know why I'm thinking Education. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thanks to Representative Conti, we caught an error in the amendment that was brought to the committee.
Representative Hamner, 1 second.
You move L006.
Yes.
Can you move the amendment? You did. Okay, Amendment L006 is moved and is properly displayed. Representative Hamner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. L006 is an amendment to the committee report that was caught by Representative Conti, so I wanted to thank her for reading her amendments and being prepared. But the committee report amended the bill to make sure that we have the words tobacco, cigarettes, and nicotine products in our state law and in the sign for retailers. And L006 makes a technical correction in one place in the bill. The amendment didn't include the words tobacco. So I ask for your support of L006.
Is there any further discussion on Amendment L006? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of Amendment L006. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Amendment L006 is adopted.
To describe the committee report? Or
To the bill.
we have to adopt the committee report?
To the committee report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As I said earlier when I was talking about L006, the committee report amended the bill. In the work in the Senate, we inadvertently lost the word cigarettes from state law. I don't think that was intentional. And so the committee report amended the bill to make sure that we have clarity that cigarettes, tobacco, nicotine products are not to be sold or consumed by those under 18. So I ask for your support of the committee report.
Is there any further discussion on the Public Health Committee report? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of the Public Health Committee report. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The Public Health Committee report is adopted. To the bill, Representative Young.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, this bill makes a substantive change to the statutes, removes the word electronic, and actually then describes that we do not want to allow anyone under 18 to purchase a device that delivers nicotine, tobacco, or other products because of the grave health risks that these devices pose to the health of our children under 18. It also, we have a significant number of products now that are beginning to be marketed, particularly in convenience stores, that contain nicotine. And our statutes hadn't really caught up with that. The retailers came to us and said that there was confusion in our statutes, that they weren't clear whether they could market those to children under 18. And these changes to the statutes cement that and make sure that we don't have those kind of products being marketed to children under 18. With that, I ask for your aye vote.
Representative Labuda.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And members, I rise in support of this bill. Yesterday, a constituent of mine who is a student from Kennedy High School came and visited me and showed me an 8x11 sheet that had color pictures of things that are tobacco products that are being marketed now. One of them is Smurf color. Others are bubble gum. They have Tinkerbell. They are flavored cherry, raspberry, everything else. And they have much more nicotine in them than a cigarette does. So I urge passage of this bill because we do need to keep these products regulated also. And it just shows me the continuing efforts by the cigarette industry to market to young children. Because if I were a kid and I saw one of those, I would think it was candy and I would pick it up and eat it or drink it or whatever. So thank you for bringing this bill, and I urge a yes vote.
Representative Kagan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And nicotine is an addictive product, believe me, I know. This bill limits the acquisition of nicotine products to those under the age of 18. I think it strikes the right balance because 18 is an appropriate age below which to control these products. And because it sets the right age and we treat people as adults beyond 18 and as children below 18, and this restricts their access to nicotine products, I think it's a good bill and I urge an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion on Senate Bill 18? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 18. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Senate Bill 18 is adopted. Mr. Kohler, please read the title of House Bill 1057.
House Bill 1057, Representative Navarro, all Senator King, concerning the Colorado Fraud Investigators Unit.
Representative Navarro.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to renew my I would like to move HB 1057. There is no committee report.
To the bill?
The purpose of this bill is to raise the amount the Colorado Fraud Investigation Unit can collect from UCC filings.
Representative Pabon.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Representative Navarro, I know we started this conversation briefly the other day, and I listened to your answer about the increase in fees, but then I look at the fiscal note for the bill, and it says the Department of State will be required to update the UCC filing fee to include the additional surcharge on its website and the online filing and payment system, and basically says that they're going to have to update their IT infrastructure to include this additional surcharge for the UCC filing fee. So can you tell me again, is the fiscal note wrong that the UCC filing fees are going to have an additional surcharge?
Representative Navarro.
The $98,500 that I am requesting is part of that upgrade.
Representative Kagan.
Representative Navarro, I'm confused about the Secretary of State's part of the fee. In the hearing, the Secretary of State told us that they could not guarantee that they would keep the fees the way they are, and they may have to raise them in the future, but they couldn't say. And yesterday, I understood you to say that they've now said that they will keep the fee where it is. My question is, have they changed their position between committee and now? And if so, how long have they said they will keep the fee the same? Is it for just a year or 2 years or what?
Representative Navarro.
Thank you for that question. I have been working with Secretary of State's office on this bill. They have had an unexpected amount of revenue come in that will be able to cover this, and therefore their charges will stay at $8.
Representative Kagan.
But their charge is $4, not $8 that they're going to, isn't it?
Representative Navarro.
UCC filing charges are $8 at this current time. $5 goes to the Secretary of State, and $3 goes to the fraud unit. What this bill does is gives $1 extra to the fraud unit and $1 less to the Secretary of State.
Representative Kagan.
So I think the taxpayers have a right to know what has been discussed privately and what has been assured to you privately, Representative Navarro. So for the record, the Secretary of State has said they will reduce their fee from $5 to $4, and they will keep it at $4. And for how long will they keep it at $4? So the public knows.
Representative Navarro.
To answer your question, yes, they have made that agreement. This bill sunsets in 3 years, and that will cover this 3 years until the sunset.
Representative Kagan.
So the Secretary of State has assured the public through your good officers that for 3 years they will keep their fee at $4 for this, and that is a public commitment that you are prepared to make on behalf of the Secretary of State. 3 years, $4.
Representative Navarro.
That is correct. I have worked hard with the Secretary of State to assure that there is going to be no increase in this fee.
Representative Salazar.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Representative Navarro. A couple of things. Number one is, did the Secretary of State's office, did they make that commitment to you in writing? And if so, could we get a copy of that? As Vice Chair of State Affairs, we hear an awful lot of stuff from the Secretary of State's office that we have to try to get in writing. And so I'm wondering if you got that in writing. And number two, you said that they had some unexpected revenue. Well, if they had some unexpected revenue, then why are we charging anybody at all?
Representative Navarro.
I do not have anything in writing. Thank you for the question and for your concern. I absolutely understand that our state budget is one of our main concerns. Our taxpayers pay us to come down here and to fight for them. What this bill does is for the Fraud Investigators Unit. This bill is to protect our business owners from fraud.
Representative McNulty.
It's not how it works, Representative Salazar. Sit down. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Representative McNulty.
Thank you, Mr.
Representative McNulty.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So,
members, Representative McNulty is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, colleagues, this isn't about the Secretary of State's office, though I understand that there are those on the majority side that would like to make this about the Secretary of State's office. This is about a bill that passed out of 3 committees, strong bipartisan support. I am interested to see the scrum of Democrats developing down here on the side, attempting to make this about our Secretary of State, but it's not. This is about a simple bill passed out of committee with broad bipartisan support, and if my colleagues on the Democratic side would like to make this a partisan political issue,
Representative
then by all means,
we're talking about the bill. Let's keep this to the bill, Representative McNulty.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. But I suggest that we focus on the legislation, Representative Salazar, and not stray off into innuendo and attacks against the Colorado Secretary of State, and stay focused on House Bill 1057. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Representative Melton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Representative McNulty, I'm going straight to the legislation because this has been over and over again said that this is a transfer of fees, that the Secretary of State's office is going to reduce their fees in order to make up for the fee increase that this bill does. But we haven't seen anything in writing. So I have to go off of what's in front of me, which is the legislation, which says that this is a fee increase on businesses, on small businesses at that. So I'm trying to understand what this bill does. It has gone through multiple committee meeting hearings, and we still don't know exactly what this does because the bill itself is a fee increase on businesses, but yet we keep hearing that it's some type of transfer and that some type of backroom deal with the Secretary of State's office has been made in order to compensate for this amount. And so if there are additional revenues that the Secretary of State has, why are we bringing this bill forward? I ask for a no vote.
Representative Salazar.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And we had the Secretary of State's office in committee talking about this bill. And they said that they could not promise that they wouldn't raise fees. And now we're hearing from Representative Navarro that they're making assurances that they're not going to raise fees. So it's a very legitimate question for me to ask. Did the Secretary of State's office provide that assurance in writing? It's not a partisan issue. That's about his office. And it's about transparency. And not only that, but we were just told right here in the well, just now, we were advised by Representative Navarro that there was unexpected revenue. And so if there is unexpected revenue at the Secretary of State's office, then why are we passing this on to small businesses? Why can't they fund the $98,500 for additional fraud investigators if there's unexpected revenue? Why are we doing this to these small businesses that file UCC filings? That is a legitimate question. It's not partisan. You're the ones who made it partisan. I'm asking for a no vote on this bill.
Representative Court.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. All right. We heard this bill in the Finance Committee. Our job in the Finance Committee is good fiscal policy. Now, the Secretary of State collects fees over which we don't actually have control. That is the Secretary of State's purview. Whether we think that the Secretary of State spends the money wisely or not is a totally different discussion. To a certain extent, I recognize we should be concerned about it. We are concerned about it, but it is the Secretary of State's purview to determine fees and decide how to spend them. This bill is about protecting our businesses with transferring money within that fee structure to the fraud unit. That's what this bill is about. It is completely within the Secretary of State's purview to make these decisions. Certainly, fees impact our taxpayers. We recognize that. But the fact is, this is the Secretary of State's responsibility, and I think it is the responsibility of this body to recognize that protecting our businesses from fraud is a valuable thing to do. So I voted for this in the Finance Committee, and I urge a yes vote from this body today. Thank you.
Representative Del Grosso.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Representative Melton, Representative Salazar, I appreciate you both coming to the well and making a statement here that you somehow don't know what this bill did, even though you voted for it in committee, both of you. So you're making a statement to this body and the people of Colorado on there that I voted for a bill in committee, and now I'm saying I voted for a bill that I had no idea what it does. That's kind of embarrassing, but I guess you have to go back and justify to your folks why you voted for a bill and now you don't know what it does. So Representative Court did a great job of explaining what this bill does. Again, it would be a $1 increase on businesses if the Secretary of State's office did not agree to lower their fee by $1. And in committee, I did hear the bill, and I do understand what the bill does because I was in the same committee as Representative Melton and sat there and listened to testimony, and they explained what the bill does. And yes, the Secretary of State's office said, you know, at this time, we think we can do it, but we're not sure. But they have the ability to lower it. At that time, yes, they said, we don't know. But since committee and since now being on the floor, they've been able to look at their budget and what their budget is going to be coming up in the future, and they said, yes, we can absorb taking that $1 decrease and not increasing that, and so as a result, there will be no extra charge to businesses. So now, simply having that been said, Representative Melton is still urging a no vote against protecting businesses against fraud, and so you can listen to Representative Melton and still vote no. But I would urge you to vote yes and protect those businesses against fraud. So do not listen to Representative Melton or Salazar on their no vote to have more fraud against businesses. Please urge an aye vote on this bill and protecting those businesses. Thank you.
Representative Peniston.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And you know, if I happen to be a student from Bellevue Christian School who happened to be sitting in the gallery in the north side of the gallery, I'd probably be wondering how this change from $3 to $4 would affect me and my parents' business.
Representative Melton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Mr. Minority Leader, if you remember in committee, we had to bring this bill twice. We had to have 2 hearings on this bill because this bill didn't make any sense. And it didn't make sense because of how the bill was being presented. The bill was being presented as a transfer, not as a fee raise. But that's exactly what the legislation does. The legislation impacts a new fee or an increased fee on small businesses. And so, yes, I did vote this bill out of committee because I do want to protect businesses from fraud, but because I still don't necessarily know where this fee is coming from because it's still being said that there's some type of backroom deal being done, I'm asking for a no vote. I haven't seen anything in writing to say where this money is really going to come from. Is it coming from the small businesses or is it coming from the Secretary of State's office? If one of you can answer that question, you might be able to change my mind. But I have not heard that here on the floor yet. All I've heard is that this is going to be some type of transfer and the Secretary of State's office has money to do this. If they have money to do this, why is this legislation necessary? If they have money to absorb these costs, why do we have to pass this bill right now? And so I say, let's protect small businesses. I say, let's help the small guy out who's trying to be an entrepreneur, who's trying to invest in and grow his own business and doesn't need additional fees tacked onto him. So that's why I'm asking for a no vote, unless someone can show me in writing that the Secretary of State's office is going to truly absorb these costs. I ask for a no vote.
Representative Sabo.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is so interesting. It sounds like one of those cases of I voted for it before I voted against it. That sounds a little flip-floppish. We need to protect our businesses from fraud. This bill is a great way that our businesses who already pay this fee, and the Secretary of State said he would use $1 out of this fee to protect the businesses and the business owners of Colorado from thieves. Let's not promote thievery here. Let's protect our businesses from thieves, those who want to fraud those businesses. I ask for a yes vote.
Representative Melton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I'm curious as to where the whole idea of flip-flopping came from. Because you're right, I voted for this bill because I do believe that we need to protect fraud. We need to protect businesses from fraud. I definitely do believe that. But to me, this sounds like a whole, like no new taxes. This sounds a lot like we're going to increase these fees, we're going to create a new fee, we're going to do that. We're going to do that, we're going to hide the dollar here, we're going to pay Peter to, pay Paul to rob Peter to pay Paul. I don't know how you say it. Because that's about as confusing as it was in committee. That's about as confusing it is right now. And all I know is, where's the dollar coming from? Just tell me, where's the buck coming from? Please.
Representative Sabo.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The dollar is coming from the Secretary of State letting $1 of the money he has to his budget to stop thieves. You talked about robbing Peter to pay Paul. Let's stop the thieves from robbing our businesses.
Representative Salazar.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And you're right, Representative Szabo. I did vote it. Oh, I'll tell you. I said you're right. I did vote it out of committee, but I'll tell you one bit of information that we didn't have in committee. What we didn't have in committee was what Representative Navarro just presented right now, which was that there is now unexpected revenue for the Secretary of State's office. And so had we known about the unexpected revenue at the time, and I don't think, in all fairness, I don't think that the Secretary of State's office knew about the unexpected revenue when he presented or when they presented in front of Judiciary, but had we known about it, then there would have been other questions about why do we have to raise these fees against small businesses? If you have unexpected revenue, why are we doing this? But because we didn't have that information, yes, we did vote it out of committee because we thought it was necessary. But now we have the information, now that it's been presented here, and now that we have Representative Navarro talking about some type of backroom deal where he's making some assurances that he's not going to raise these fees on small businesses, now it becomes an issue. Now it becomes an issue of, do we raise these filing fees on small businesses now that he has unexpected revenue? That becomes a different calculus altogether, and I think that you might agree with me on that. If you knew that the Secretary of State's office has additional revenue, I'm sure it would raise a question in your mind, do we now raise fees on small businesses? And I notice that you're not really listening to me, because that might be a tough question for you to answer now, right? If you knew that if you knew that there's unexpected revenues now, would you be so willing to raise fees on small businesses, or would you say to him, can you absorb those fees in your new unexpected revenue? It's a very valid question.
Members, just be sure that you're directing your comments in reference to the bill. Representative Navarro. Representative Quorum.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, we often talk about where does the money come from. We're putting a fee on businesses. Yes, we are. If I can spend $1 to save my business from fraud, that's $1 well spent. But let's think about it. Where does every dollar we spend come from? It comes from me. It comes from you. It comes from the businesses throughout the state. Government does not make money. Government only spends money. And we as a body, when we have excess revenue, there's a race to the well to get a bill to spend that money. I think this is money well spent protecting rural and urban businesses throughout the state. Fraud is very real, and if $1 will protect that, I am certainly willing, as an individual business person, to spend that $1.
Representative Navarro.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, what this bill does and the purpose of this bill is to protect our businesses from identity thieves. There are 125 active cases right now with identity theft. It is important that we, as a body, protect our businesses from these identity thieves. I urge an aye vote. Thank you.
Representative Kagan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And members, this has been a rather unusual passage of public policy. We had assurances in one direction about the very important question of an increase in net charges to businesses, and we weren't assured. We were actually assured that they could not make any guarantees from the Secretary of State's office about what those charges would be. Then we had discussions between the bill sponsor and the Secretary of State's office about whether they needed to increase the fees, and an assurance now through Representative Navarro that they will be reduced to $4 from $5, the fee for filing a UCC filing, and that they'll be kept there for 3 years. And there's been a request that this be put in writing, and my feeling is that if these assurances are being made, let's put them in writing. Let's make it clear that we are not going to raise the net cost to small businesses. And so I move Amendment L004 and ask that it be displayed.
Amendment L004 has been moved and is properly displayed. Representative Kagan.
Members, L004 would simply make clear what has been made clear at the mic, that what's going to happen if we pass this bill is that the Secretary of State is going to reduce its filing fee from $5 to $4 and keep it there for a period of 3 years. It simply puts in writing what has been publicly stated by Representative Navarro, and I urge an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion on Amendment L004? Representative Navarro.
Members, this is the first that I've seen of this amendment. This is not a friendly amendment. What this bill does, again, is protects our businesses from identity theft. I urge an aye vote, or I urge a no vote on the amendment.
Is there any further? Representative Salazar.
Wait, thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, wait a minute, Representative Navarro. You just said here in the well just a little bit ago that you received assurances from the Secretary of State's office that he wasn't going to raise the fee on small businesses. You said that right here in the well. And I asked the question, was it in writing? And you said it was not.
Representative Salazar, just to the amendment.
I am speaking to the amendment.
I know you're speaking to the amendment, but please avoid using the members' names, please.
Okay. This amendment here memorializes the conversation you said that you had with the Secretary of State's office. I don't know why you would not allow a legislative declaration to memorialize the conversation you just talked to the members about that you had with the Secretary of State's office. What's wrong with memorializing it?
Representative Melton.
Ask for an aye vote on L004.
Representative Melton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And we heard a lot of cliches down here. We heard, that we've been doing some flip-flopping and no new taxes. I got another cliche for you. Show me the money. And that's what this amendment does. It puts into writing the agreement that's been made with the Secretary of State's office. It says that the Secretary of State's going to cover this fee. I think this is a good amendment. I ask that you vote yes for this amendment, because then we actually will have some transparency on this bill. We can stop this mass confusion of where this fee is really coming from and ensure that our small businesses are not going to get new taxes and fees based on this bill. As for night vote.
Representative Stevens.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, we have a separation of powers here, and I think as Representative Court so adequately said, that if you want to bind, we can start doing amendments all day. We'll just bind everybody. We can bind every head of a department. But you elect your Secretary of State. Hey, we can bind the Lieutenant Governor today. Why don't we do that? Why don't we start doing all of this kind of rigmarole to try to bind the hands? This is not what we're here to do today. What you're here today to do as a policy is to say, are we going to protect businesses from fraud? The Secretary of State has said he will absorb this, and we're going to trust him to do his job. And so, frankly, I mean, you could vote on this, but just be ready from the rest of the day on out and through the end of session to have every aspect of governing bound up now, because I'll make sure we do it. If you guys want to play those kind of games, we can do it. We can do that the rest of this session. But this is an affront to governing in general. When you have a budget, and boy, we're going to argue the budget next week, JBC's job is to check, to discuss. We can certainly have JBC look into this, but right now, we have a separation of powers here for a reason. This is a ridiculous amendment, an absolutely ridiculous amendment. And I urge a no vote.
Representative McNulty.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I was over here visiting with the Assistant Majority Leader, and I think there's an opportunity here to arrive at language in the legislative declaration that works. This was sort of sprung on us by the majority party on a bill that came out of committee on a wildly bipartisan vote, with two of the members down here arguing against it, having voted for it in one case twice. I do find it ironic that the majority party is filibustering their own calendar, but that's their prerogative. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I move that Amendment L004 be laid on the table.
The committee will stand in a brief recess. The committee will come back to order. That motion is not in order.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Representative Kagan.
Mr. Chairman, I withdraw my motion. I withdraw my amendment.
To the bill. So is there any further discussion on House Bill 1057? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of House Bill 1057. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. House Bill 1057 is adopted. Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move the committee rise and report.
Seeing no objection, the committee will rise and report.
The House will come to order. Mr. Kohler, please read the report of the committee of the whole.
Mr. Speaker, the Committee of the Whole begs leave reports under consideration of the following attached bills being second reading thereof and make the following recommendations thereon. House Bills 1057, 1282, 1286, 1291. Passed on second reading or gross placed on the counter for third and final passage. Senate Bill 1718 amended 5898. Passed on second reading in order revised and placed on the counter for third and final passage.
Representative Garcia. The report? Okay, that sounds good because I really don't want to adopt you all. I adopted one and that's enough. Seeing no amendments at the desk, the question before the House is the adoption of the report of the Committee of the Whole. Mr. Kohler, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representatives Hamner, Humphrey, Stevens, and Szabo. Representatives Duran, Giroux, and May excused. Close the machine with 60 aye votes, 0 no votes, 5 excused, and 0 absent. The report of the committee is adopted. Announcements and introductions. Representative Singer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. House Local Government Committee. We have two bills. House Bill 1217 for action only and House Bill 1307. We will meet at 1/4 till. So I will see you all down in House Committee room at 1/4 till.
Representative Court.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Two things. Don't forget your time sheets before you leave the chamber. Please get them done. Either turn them into the assignables or put them on the top of your file cabinet. They are your time sheets for March. Finance Committee, let's get over there by 1/4 of. Thank you.
Representative Tyler.
Thank you. I was going to let Transportation Committee off the hook for a little bit, but I'll follow the lead of the other committees around here. 1/4 in the basement. 1/4 in the basement. We got some work to do.
Seeing no further announcements or introductions. Okay, Representative Scott.
Thank
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would ask that the chairman of the Transportation Committee use the elevator on the north side. I mean, our coup attempt this morning did not fail, but it didn't work either.
Representative Tyler.
I made some real interesting friends in that elevator trap there for 20 minutes this morning. I think I'll take the stairs this time.
It's always better and healthier to take the stairs. Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move the House stand in recess until 1 p.m. this afternoon, at which point we'll adjourn until 9 a.m. tomorrow, March 21st.
Seeing no objection, the House will stand in recess until 1 p.m. today. We'll see you back tomorrow.